Hello, I'm Steve Berry, and you will notice that there is only one of me. There's only one Steve Berry. I am without my Cowland today. I am a Chuckle brother rather than the Chuckle brothers. R.I.P. Barry. Or was it Paul? No, it's Paul still alive, isn't he? Paul Cowland and Paul Chuckle are still alive. Anyway, all I'm saying is there won't be much in the way of comedy in this preview because it's just me, but hopefully there won't be all those daft questions that Paul always asks me about motorbikes, because he knows nothing about motorbikes. And I know next to nothing about motorbikes, but hopefully it's all written down here, which tells me that this is the first bike to tell you about. It's a KTM rather, obviously. I was saying to our cameraman Fraser here, I was saying, I think this came out a couple of years ago. It didn't. This is how old I am. It's a 2008 bike, and boy, is it in great condition. Single cylinder, 4 valves, 4-stroke, and 690 cc's. What a thumper. It's got the Akrapovic cans, which make people think that it's a twin rather than a single, but I can assure you that it is a big single, and perhaps the fiercest of all the Supermoto bikes made by anybody. It's in absolutely awesome condition. The paintwork and bodywork is great, as are the wheels and tyres. It is ready to rock and roll, and has a reserve between 2,500 and 3,000 of your English pounds. The next bike is, for me, the ultimate classic. Now, we all have our ultimate classics. Lots of people think Vincent, rough superior. I happen to think, for all kinds of reasons, that the Norton Commando is the ultimate classic. My dad had one. Norton is the greatest name in motorcycle racing, the greatest British name in motorcycle racing. And it's also, isn't it, a great looking motorcycle. This is a 1975 Commando 850. It's the highly sought after Roadster Mark II. It had a restoration about 5 years ago. It's got really good tyres on it. I just love this motorbike. Like I said, I think the Commando is the ultimate classic. This is a fantastic example of it in the best colour combination. Black sets off all the shiny chrome work and polished alloy, and the gold pinstriping. And it's in great condition. The best thing about this one, the estimate, is between £5,000 and £7,000. For me, the Commando is the two-wheeled equivalent of the E-Type Jag, which I reckon is the greatest British classic car. Not because it's the most expensive, not because it's the fastest, but because it brought speed to the ordinary, not the ordinary enthusiast, but to the working man, if you will. And £5,000 to £7,000, it's the ultimate. Where else are you going to get the ultimate for that kind of money? I'd never ridden a Triumph Trident, and I thought, they can't be as good as a twin, as a Bonneville. Heavier, more complex. That's going to affect the handling. That's going to affect the braking performance. Then I rode one and I realised how good they are. This is a 1974 T150V, factory recorded matching numbers, a full restoration, runs brilliantly, starts with these good tyres. Has this one got electric start and a kickstart? I think we're just on a kickstart. They're a great looking motorcycle. They're a real, built for the American market, really. They could have had these out before Honda had a 4-cylinder motorcycle on sale, but due to the incompetence that reigned at the time in the British motorcycle industry, they didn't really get their act together. But now, a highly sought after classic, full restoration just a few years ago. It's in absolutely superb condition and is ready to go. The estimate on this one, and it's a very accurate estimate, this one, between £4,500 and £5,000. The Triumph Trident, the Triumph Triple. What a great idea that was. What a shame it didn't work better for them at the time. Although Triumph, of course, are back and doing brilliantly. So just ignore all that guff that I said there. 1957 BSA B31. Now, not the most collectible or sought after of British classics, but this is probably the definitive example of this bike. Fully restored in 2018 by John Greenwood. Frame and tinware, blasted, primed, painted maroon in 2-pack paint. There's a list of the work down here, which I could read out to you, but really life is too short. Just basically assume that this motorcycle has been fully restored to a very high standard and, you know, take it from there. You can't go wrong. Let's have a look at the estimate on this one. I'll bet again, it's a fraction of what it cost to perform this restoration. And I think I'd be right, because the estimate is £4,000 to £5,000 on this 1957, perfect 1957 BSA B31. We've just had the Triumph Trident, and this is the same bike, but with BSA. Well, it's the same engine, of course. It's that 3-cylinder engine. And this one is a 1971 example of what they call the Rocket 3, which is a great name. It's a rocket. It's got 3 cylinders, 4-speed gearbox. It's the complete running bike. You get a second set of forks with this bike for some reason. I don't think there's anything with the ones wrong with the ones that are on it. Do you know what this bike needs? It looks a bit unloved and a bit sort of neglected, but I reckon it just needs a clean. Don't go mad. Whatever you do, please don't buy this and restore it. Just give it a damn good going over and get it sorted out. What a glamorous looking machine this is. You can see how it was built to appeal to the Americans. Two-tone paintwork, chrome on the tank, great big badge. That's fantastic badge, isn't it? That BSA badge. Great name, loads of shiny stuff, loads of go. And it did well for them at the time. And of course, it did well in racing. People like Dick Mann raced this bike at Daytona to great success. The estimate on this one, £5,000 to £6,000 on the BSA Rocket 3. What a name. Right. Next one is a Honda CB 750. 1976, very original and complete example. Of course, the Honda CB 750. I was going to say I've said it once. I've said it frequently. I've said it many more times than once. This was the original superbike, 4 cylinders. We've got a disc brake on the front here. We've got electric start. We've got loads of shiny chrome. Are we calling this 3-tone paintwork? Or no, 2-tone, but with a kind of gold pinstriping. We've got all the sort of kit that British manufacturers thought that the average motorcyclist didn't need on a 4-cylinder machine. There have been 4-cylinder machines before. 4-cylinder machines are almost as old as motorcycling itself. You look at Henderson back in the day, the original American superbike. Nimbus, a Danish-built bike. I saw one of those the other day. First time I'd ever seen one in the flesh. The only time I'd ever seen a Nimbus before was in that book that they had in every library in Britain. That Erwin Tagresh or something, some Czech bloke, the Encyclopedia of Motorcycling, which we all read from cover to cover, which is why I knew about things like the Nimbus and the Henderson. But this was the first mass-produced, affordable 4-cylinder motorcycle. And this is a great original example. It's not in the best condition, but it is original. And again, that would tend to make me think that what you should do is just give it a good going over, get it sorted so you can rely on it. Don't mess too much with the looks. The estimate is £2,800 to £3,500 on that Honda 754. Now, I think I've seen this next bike at the Bike Shed show in London. If you don't know what the Bike Shed show is, I'll tell you. About 10 years ago, I went to the first one, and I've just been to the 10th one, so it is 10 years ago. A custom show, but not like the sort of custom show where everybody's got a big long straggly beard and a beer belly and a leather cut-off with loads of patches on saying that they went to the Dragon Rally in 1978. The sort of bike show where they have craft beers and barbers and tattooists and women actually go to the Bike Shed bike show. So it's not like other bike shows. It's where the cool kids go in London. And I'm sure I saw this bike here this year. It's a street tracker based on the XS650 Yamaha 1975. It says a brilliant restoration here. I think Paul Cowland might have written this. It's not a restoration, it's a resto mod. It's the same as those Singer Porsches and that sort of thing, where there is a style of motorcycle, which would be the American flat tracker, and then that style is adapted for the street. Obviously, if this was a bike to be raced on the dirt oval, you certainly wouldn't have this whacking great disc brake on the front, because that would be unrequired. Unrequired's not a word, but never mind. It's in absolutely phenomenal condition. They spent a ton of money on creating this street tracker, and the estimate on this bike is £8,000 to £9,000. 1975 Yamaha XS650 street tracker. Yamaha, another XS650. Yamaha XS650 Special. Yeah. So, not content with copying most of the designs of the British motorcycle industry and improving on them, what Yamaha did was just rob the whole thing. I mean, Kawasaki, their first big bike was just a BSA. And this one, the XS650, is, of course, Yamaha's take on that parallel twin British motorcycle engine, except, of course, more reliable, and it didn't leak oil all over the place. Hold on a minute, have we now got an oil tray underneath this motorbike that's going to make me look stupid? Yeah. I knew there would be. Hey, and look, you know when people like me say that they don't leak oil? Honesty in auctioneering here. There is a tiny, tiny little bit of oil that this bike has leaked. I think Yamaha might have built in the oil leak to make it seem more authentic. So this bike at the time would have competed with the Brit stuff, but also I think with the Harley Sportster. And that's why you've got this step seat and these big pull-back bars. Yep, this is a popular machine now. Some people might want to buy this and tear it down, build a custom like the one that we've just seen. And if you wanted to do that, this is a very cheap way into it, much cheaper than going the Harley Davidson route, because this bike has an estimate of just £1,500 to £2,500. Here we are. The Yamaha RD250. My dad had a 400 in these colours. This is the best colour scheme. Yellow with the black and white speed blocks, just like Kenny Roberts' race bike. This one's a 1978, a nice original example of this two-stroke twin, air-cooled, 6-speed gearbox. 6-speed, it's a UK bike as well, not an import. This isn't one of those unloved American bikes that's been sat outside for God knows how many years. Sitting outside in the hot sun can be as bad as sitting outside in Bury, Lancashire, you know. This one's been looked after. It's a UK bike. I cannot believe how cheap it is on the estimate. It could be yours for between £2,500 and £3,000. RD250. My dad had a 400, but that's the 250. There wasn't that much to tell in the difference in performance, if truth be known. Another 250. I love the colour in this one. Yamaha, earlier than the other one. This is a 75, fully restored, great colour. Not as good as the yellow one. I can't say that really. I just said the yellow one was the best colour scheme. Now I think I've changed my mind. This is beautiful. I love the paintwork on this. Restored to a very high standard. Wheels and chassis like new. No advisories at all on the last MOT. Wow, this bike is in phenomenal condition. To be honest, if we're honest, it's sort of better than the paintwork and the chrome and stuff like that. It's better than new. It was never that good back in the day, but it is now. 1975 Yamaha RD250. Yours, the estimate says here, for between this reflects the standard of the restoration, for between £5,500 and £6,000. It really is. They say stunning, don't they? They don't mean that. Really good. That's a more honest way of saying it. Really good condition. 1978. It's a triple. The triple with a ripple. Oh yeah, baby. This is the little one. The KH250. 1978 Kawasaki KH250. 249cc, two-stroke, triple, 5-speed gearbox, air-cooled, of course. Again, important to a lot of people. This is a UK bike. We at Manor Park have a lot of bikes which have been imported used from the States, used from Germany, used from Japan, places like that. And people will sometimes look for those bikes for all kinds of reasons because, you know, they've got an idea about what makes them better than a UK bike. But for a lot of people, you cannot beat a bike which is registered here in the UK from new. And this one was an easy project for somebody to get. It says project. I'm not sure why this would be a project. It looks great. Just needs a clean. That'd be your project. Give it a clean. Because apart from that, it's in fantastic condition. MOT exempt, all that sort of stuff now from 1978. And an estimate on this one between £3,500 and £4,000. NSR 250. I've just been talking about bikes which weren't sold new in the UK. And I would imagine that this is one of those. Shall I look for a kilometre clock? Yes, kilometre clocks. So an NSR 250. Lovely original two-stroke race replica, JDM, great import bike. All those great import bikes they're like jewels. They're usually a smaller version of the bikes that we got. Very well put together, full of all kinds of interesting design features. This is, cool, what year is it now? It's making me feel old. 1988, wow. 30 odd years old, lots of 30 odd years old. Oh, wow. And yet it seems like a modern motorcycle, doesn't it? Look at these cans, fantastic. Look at those little cans. It's in great condition. 1988 Honda NSR 250. What do you pay for a lovely original two-stroke like this in this condition? Well, I'll tell you what the estimate is. It's between £4,500 and £5,000. It's a Tizen R250 Yamaha. I love it in this colour. It seems bigger than the Honda. I don't think it necessarily is. I think there's more room for the rider on this bike. This is a 1989, same era as the Honda, the NSR 250. Tizen R250, this of course could be a UK bike, but again, we're on kilometre clocks, so I'm going to assume that it's a Japanese grey import, as we used to say back in the day. Do we still say that? Would it be on this an F plate or something? Oh, Barry gets it right for once. Yes, an F plate, the Tizen R250. Tizen R125, Tizen R250, very well thought of. You might have had a blade or a big jigsaw or something like that back in the day, but you might just want to go out on the occasional sunny Sunday, if we ever get one, particularly in this part of the world, just have a bit of fun. So you don't want to go too mad, you don't want to spend too much money. But this is an iconic motorcycle, everybody will have heard of it, everybody will know it, and it's yours at this auction. So they reckon for between £3,500 and £4,000, at least that is the estimate. Came in some fairly nasty colours, and we're going to move to that in a minute, but I think this black and grey, I'm not sure if it's the original. Don't know if I ever saw it in these colours. I think somebody's had it done like this, but it does look great. What was it? £3,500 to £4,000. Now, this is the one out of these three that I would have. The Urge. If there was an Aprilia RS250, I'd have that, which had the engine from this one. But out of these three, Suzuki RGV250, a good solid example, it says here, of a 90s two-stroke. I'm sold already. This was the one that the magazines always put at the top when they pitted. The one that's missing, of course, is the Kawasaki KR1 S250 out of the four Japanese two-stroke 250s. Mostly standard bike. It's got some modifications, rear sets, these cans, a bit of a sort of carbon fibre dress-up kit on it. Yeah, to reflect the fact that this is the one that people want to have. The estimate is higher, even though there's quite a bit of wear on this bike. It's done what? Oh, a massive 16,000 kilometres, according to what's on the clocks. That's just what's on the clocks, though. The estimate, £4,500 to £5,000. Absolutely and definitely a great import. Look at this colour scheme. I think I had a shell suit like this back in the day. I don't know that Paul Cowland did. Oh yeah, baby. course, Paul had a permanent shell suit. Of course he did. Look at him. Blue seat, pink grab rail. Woof, saucy. We all wore stuff like that, though, back in the day. Paddock jackets and helmets. I've got a picture of me wearing pink, white, and black leathers, pink, white, and black boots, pink, white, and black gloves, and a pink, white, and black helmet. As I said to my missus, I thought I looked great. She said, you didn't. It was the 90s. We've got a 124cc two-stroke engine here. Low mileage. Let's have a look. Yeah, low mileage. 9,000 kilometres from new. And it's what? 1989. Wow. How has it done so little mileage in all those years? Somebody's bought this as their first bike, haven't they? Used it for a while, traded up to a bigger bike, but they didn't have the heart to get rid of their first love. And so it just lived in the corner of someone's garage, like somewhere it was nice and warm and dry, but it was never ridden. And now you could pick it up and ride it. You'd have to send a picture of me and Paul, though, of you wearing all the gear, all the original 90s, 80s, 90s radical gear. Travel Fox trainers, those high tops, yeah, you could wear on that. No reserve? Oh, I was looking for reserve, and the answer came back, no reserve. So you can have that bike, no reserve. And why wouldn't you want that bike? Ah, here we go. Now this is more like it. The Cagiva Mito. They've made an Alfa Romeo called the Mito, haven't they? But to me, this is the original Mito. A stunning two-stroke here, it says, in brilliant working condition. Now, I don't know if that was ever true. I went on the launch of this bike. That's how old I am. I went on the launch of this bike. 1993, yeah. And I remember that the designer, who did a brilliant job, I think you'll agree, told me that when Cagiva were making it, they tried to work out how much bodywork they'd need, because this bike would get ridden. The youth of Italy took to this. They took to this bike. They decided that this bike would need a minimum of 6 sets of replacement bodywork. They made an extra 6 sets of bodywork, all these mirrors, all this plastic, because they knew that the lads that bought these would ride the be-whatsits off them, and they did. What a bike. You can see here next to the Ducatis, look at the physical size of it for a 125. Because you're thinking, yeah, a 125 was all right back in the day, Barry, but I can't be riding one now because I'm a grown man. It's the same physical size as the Ducatis that were being sold by Cagiva, who very much owned Ducati at the time. They knew what they were doing here. This was exactly the same philosophy as those like Cinquecento Schumacher editions. Sell a bit of that unattainable performance and style to the kids and the everyday man, but in bike form. How much? Let me see. Wow, £3,000 to £4,000. Find another one. They all got smashed up by Guido and his buddies. They were so expensive when they were new. Wow, £3,000 to £4,000 a Cagiva Mito. You might be thinking, I couldn't buy a 125. Just don't tell people it's a 125. No one will look at this bike and think, oh yeah, that's a 125. It's a full-size, physically full-size motorcycle. 7-speed gearbox. And they sound awesome. Awesome sound out of that thing. £3,000 to £4,000 is the estimate. I'm very familiar with this model. I've owned 3 of these Ducati SSs. You would have thought they'd stay away from that SS stuff, wouldn't you? What with Italy having a bit of a record with being on the wrong side and all that. Although obviously they sort of came round to the right way of thinking eventually, but you would have thought they'd stay away from that. Honda as well with the SS. What is it with these people in the SS? Stay away from that. Jaguar dumped that SS stuff after the war. Is this too controversial? Maybe it is. Right, the 600 version, you can tell it's the 600 rather than the 750 or the 900 because we've only got one disc on the front here. Apart from that, everything is the same. These wing mirrors are Fiat Panda. So is the headlight. Do you know how I found that out? That's right. I fell off one and I had to replace the stuff and I found out that that and that were actually off a Fiat Panda. These were the years when Ducati had to make do and mend. They had, though, that great engine and the trellis frame that's so distinctive. Has this one got a dry clutch? No, sir. No, sir. So it doesn't make that distinctive rattle, I don't think. 3, what's that? It can't be that. That's too cheap. £2,000 to £2,500 is the estimate. Very low mileage. Oh, right. 1994. So it's a simple calculation. For 30 years old, it's done 7,000 miles from new. 7,000 miles in 30 years. It's hardly been round the block. £2,000 to £2,500 the estimate. Wow. I love these bikes. They're great. I prefer the 900, but for the money and to say that it's that low mileage, look, it's got the original exhaust cans on it. No, you never ever see these Ducatis with the original exhaust, the original seat. It's very, very original. It's not been messed with. It's hardly been round the block. Look at this on the controls. Hardly anywhere at all because it's only done 7,000 miles from brand new. That's the bargain so far, I think. Although, the best looking motorcycle, apart from the Norton Commando, which is my ultimate classic. We're going to move to one of my top 3 in a second, but this is a great looking machine. 2009 Ducati Sport 1000S, one of the last off the line, registered, but never ridden. This is a brand new motorcycle. 992cc V-twin, 1 mile. And that's got to have been pushing it around a showroom or a museum or somebody's living room. It's never actually been ridden. You could be the first person to ride this, and you could do that for between £19,000 and £21,000. 2009. Wow, is it that long since these came out? They were very successful for Ducati. There was the Mike Aylward replica MHR, not the original Mike Aylward, the MHR one. There was this one, and there was a Paul Smart version of this bike. Pal of mine in Canada's got one of these. He loves it, does big mileage on it, big distances. So although this one's only done 1 mile, you could do considerably more on it. We move now to what many people think is the most beautiful motorcycle, most beautiful road-going motorcycle ever made. And that is, of course, the iconic, people misuse that word, but I'm going to use it properly here, iconic, because it is worshipped. An icon is worshipped, and this bike is worshipped. The Ducati 916. A V-twin engine, well, yes, could have told you that. And, of course, it's got Desmo Quattro. It's got 4 valve heads on the 916. Termigoni pipes, beautiful unmarked paintwork. Let's have a look at the mileage on this one. Good grief. 4,500 miles from, less than 4,500 miles from brand new. Absolutely stunning. This is a Ferrari, is it an F40? No, it's not an F40. It's a 360. Yeah, it's a 360, not quite an F40. It's a 360, I reckon. It's a very fast, very beautiful, very Italian, very red, desirable piece of kit. Don't take the missus on the back. She will never forgive you. Look at where the peg is. Look at where the saddle is. Unless you're married to like a marmot or a ring-tailed lemur, you might be. Anything goes these days. Don't try taking anybody on the back. That's not for sitting on. But that is for sitting on, and this bike is for riding. Do you know what? I'm standing back from it, and I'm looking at it. I'm trying to find fault in it. I'm trying to find marks. I'm trying to find wear. There isn't a blinking scratch on it. Oh, hold on a second. There. There's a scratch there. But that's it. Right, this has got to be a ton of money. Now, prefer for me to be amazed. £9,000 to £11,000. Compared to the car equivalent, it's a fraction. It's a set of tyres on the car equivalent. Phenomenal piece of kit. 916, I love you. What a beautiful motorcycle that is. And it could be yours, because they're all for sale. Did I mention that? All these bikes I keep talking about, they're all for sale. This thing's mental. 180 brake horsepower. I remember riding one for the first time. Look at it, it's an intimidating motorcycle. It's very aggressively styled, isn't it? The RC8R, and this is the Akrapovic edition. We've got some blurb on here, and I'm pretty sure that it's translated directly from Austrian, because it's a bit nuts. Oh, I've lost it now. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. See, this is Paul's iPad, and I dread going into like the history of what's on here. There are things I don't want to say in this life. I've seen a lot of things. There's some things I don't want to say, and one of them is Paul Cowland's internet history. But this is the RC8R Akrapovic 1195 twin 4-stroke. Oh, right, okay. It's got the Akrapovic. The thing is, it's the Akrapovic edition, but the thing that makes it that is under here, underneath this. It's right down there, underneath the bike. So you've got 100. This is number 6 of 100. They only made 100 of these. Ah, here we are. There we are. This is not just an RC8, not just the IDM Superbike ridden by Jeremy McWilliams. This is the RC8R Akrapovic edition, and it's much, much more. Get yourself the best chassis with the latest, most powerful 180 brake horsepower V-twin. What a beast. What a beast this is. Absolute monster. So, what would you be expected to pay? I'm trying to think, what year is this bike? Where have I got I should have the thing here. Oh. Hold on. Hold on. There we are. There it is. There it is. I found it. So, 2012. Ah, the estimate. Hold on. What's the mileage? Oh, it's all digital. I'll have to look on here. It's 26,000. Yes. So this one, wow, a bike that's actually been ridden. Fantastic. It's in great nick to say it's done 26,000 miles. My bikes, I've got a bike outside that's brand new. I put about 1,000 miles on it. It looks way older than this. Estimate on this one, again, insanely cheap. £8,500 to £9,500. Number 6 of 100, the 2012 KTM RC8R, don't forget the extra R, Akrapovic edition. Getting into some classics now. 1994, 30 years ago, half my lifetime ago, I would have been on one of these, going down Bruntingthorpe, doing the old top speed test, trying to get 200 mile an hour indicated out of these things. They never went above about 180, really. They showed a lot faster. We put them through timing lights. They'd, about 180. That was about all done. What a great bike. Iconic motorcycle in a fantastic colour scheme, in absolutely superb condition. Only 3 owners this one's ever had. It's got 11 months MOT. All the panel work, it's a UK bike, obviously. All the panel work is original. It's got good tyres, it says here. Let's have a look. Yeah, well, they've got piles of tread on them and look to be like more or less brand new. A superb example of a 90s superbike. Is it the 90s superbike? No, it isn't, but we'll come to that in a minute. But it is one of the 90s superbike. And I think today, for perhaps the more mature rider who wants to recreate the glory days of the 90s, when they were young and lithe and had hair, and they didn't have like 3 kids and a big house and all that sort of stuff, when they were footloose and fancy free, this would be it. A comfortable, powerful, torquey superbike, a true superbike. This is kind of the start of that. This would have been the sort of bike you would have seen Mark Forsyth pulling a big twisted wheelie on the front of Performance Bike magazine when they were selling like 125,000 copies a month. And this one's in awesome condition, superb. Yours, between £3,500 and £4,000. £3,500 and £4,000 is the estimate. Criminal that it's so cheap. Next to it, more modern, 2002, GSXR Thou. Gixxer Thou, 2002. One owner from new. 11 months MOT, no advisories, always dry stored. You can tell that. Look down here for that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's all good. There isn't a load of crud and rot, and there's some polish that some people. Oh, that's just where somebody's boots worn the paint off a bit there. If I do that, they've left a bit of polish on there. That shouldn't be my job really, but you know, I'm the talky guy, not the polishy guy. But somebody's got to do it. It's okay. So this one has got what on it? What mileage? Let's have a look. Oh, it's digital. I can't tell. Yeah. Oh, I can tell. Right, make that bigger. Got to make it bigger. Believe it or not, this bike, it's got 50,000 miles on it. Look at the condition. The geezer that owned it must have really looked after it. It's not perfect, but it's in great nick. And again, if you wanted it now, or you were thinking about a sports bike, back in the day, the bikes were physically larger. There was more room for you. The riding position wasn't so extreme. I mean, that KTM back there, that's an extreme riding position. That's the saddle's like a playing card. This one, more comfortable, more accommodating, a better place to be, perhaps on a Sunday afternoon for a long ride with the lads. Plenty of torque, easily accessible power, more than you need. And all yours, they reckon, the estimate, for between £2,200 and £2,800. 2002 Suzuki GSXR Thou. This one. 1972 Suzuki GT 750. The kettle. Look at the condition of this bike. Can you just get in and show them the superb bright work and paintwork on this bike? L-Reg, so it's a 72. I've got an Alpha the same year as this. They probably would have been, I would imagine at some point, somebody pulled up next to the little two-stroke Suzuki. Little, it's massive. What am I talking about? Little. Look how big this bike is. Look at me. I'm 5'10", and I'm wearing boots. It's massive. A really impressive bit of kit. I don't know if I've seen a bike with as much shiny stuff on it. It's shiny, isn't it? But it's because they wanted to sell it to the Americans, and they love the shiny stuff, and they love two-tone paintwork, and it's in the proper colour scheme if you want to sell it to the Yankees. Red, white, and blue, boy. Even though it's a Japanese motorcycle. There were some difficulties with Japanese motorcycles in America in the post-war period, as you would imagine. But by the early 70s, that had largely been forgotten because it was a new breed of bike buyers. And what they saw in this, quite revolutionary motorcycle. So it's a two-stroke liquid-cooled motor. This one is an American import. You can tell because it's got these side reflectors. I mean, they could have been fitted afterwards, but generally, if you see these, that means it's a US import. Why? Well, America is massive, and they've got loads of country roads that aren't lit. So they realised that people would just, when people pulled out, their pathetic headlight couldn't be seen. So they put these side markers. There should be one at the back as well. There is. They put these side markers on everything so that they could be seen. Yeah, good idea. This bike is in absolutely stunning condition. Much better than when it was brand new, the paintwork and the brightwork and all that sort of stuff. It is for sale for a fraction of, not as little as I thought it was. I thought there was a 1 that's actually an 11. I thought, 1? 1? Has somebody lost their mind? No, it's an 11. The estimate is between 11 and 13,000 for this 1972 water-cooled two-stroke. Water-cooled two-stroke. Wow, what a bike. The kettle. Suzuki GT 750K. Right, which way am I going now? I'm going that away to this R1. 1998 R1, an iconic motorcycle. Berry on Bikes, the best-selling publication, which I was going to say it's still available. It's not been available for like 20 years. But I wrote a book back in the day and I said this was the best bike in the world because I believed in 1998 that it was, and a lot of people agreed with me. 150 brake horsepower, the size of a 600 in a 1000cc super sports bike, awesome timeless styling. I said that at the time. Who could have known if it had timeless styling? We had to wait till now. And 26 years later, yes, it did have timeless styling because it still looks bloody fantastic. I am going to be absolutely stunned, I would imagine, at how little this 3-owner motorcycle... Has it got the original exhaust on? No, don't be daft. Everybody modified these. There's just little bits of sort of shiny stuff and replacement stuff that's gone on down here, and obviously the frame's been polished. It was never like that. Don't ever like it, but obviously you could put a cover on that if you wanted to. It's not up to me. You might think that looks fantastic because you might be the person who's buying this here motorcycle for between this iconic, I say it, I don't often say it, Ducati 916 Yamaha R1 Norton Commando iconic motorcycles. Yamaha R1 YZF R1 from 1998 could be yours with 44,000 kilometers on the clock for between 4,500 and 5,500 points. Now, this is a Kawasaki ZXR 750, and it's the least desirable of the bikes that were in the same group. But the thing is, the other bikes that were in the group with this were the Honda RC30 and the Yamaha OW01. At the time, the Kawasaki was the choice of the impoverished speed freak. It was the cheapest of the lot by some way, and that's why they sold a ton of them. I'm going to keep mentioning Performance Bikes magazine because it was a phenomena. There was a time in the 90s when Performance Bikes magazine cracked the top 20 UK magazine sales charts with things like the Radio Times and the TV Times and stuff like that, because so many of us were obsessed with the new breed of sports bike that were available at the time. This bike was never out of Performance Bikes. They were always testing them, thrashing them, crashing them, modifying them. This one has got 23,000, is that kilometers or miles? It's miles, 23,000 miles on it, 6-speed. It's got an aftermarket exhaust. It's from 1994. I keep seeing these bikes from 94, half a lifetime ago, half my lifetime ago. Everyone, well, not everybody wanted one of these. If you're rich, you probably bought an RC30 or an OW01. But the lads bought these, and it's so rare to see one that hasn't been completely destroyed because everyone thrashed them, crashed them, raced them. I've got a lot of nostalgia for this bike, and I bet there are a lot of other people out there that have got a lot of nostalgia for the Kawasaki ZXR 750 as well as me. And you could own this one for no reserve. Our favourite words, no reserve. Love them. Love those bikes. 2000. Oh no, we're doing that thing again. Where I think a bike came out 10 minutes ago. Thank you, sir. Keep taking the tablets. That's Paul Cowland again, trying to put me off. I think a bike came out 10 minutes ago and I find out that it was 25 years ago, a quarter of a century ago. I remember this one coming out, the F4 MV Agusta, the revival of MV Agusta, one of the great names in the story and the history of motorcycling, particularly motorcycle racing. This one is an original bike, sounds fantastic, rides perfectly, it says here. Quite an extreme bike to ride, I seem to remember. The riding position, very similar to that of the Ducati 916. It's got a great badge on it. The F4, this was the first one. The first one of these, I remember, was delivered to King Juan Carlos of Spain, who seemed to get in a bit of mither a few years ago, didn't he? I don't think he's quite as popular these days. Didn't he have to go and live on an island somewhere? I think he did. I wonder if he took his MV Agusta F4 with him. 750cc. How much is this one? Right, let's just stand back from it for a minute. Can we stand back and appreciate just how fantastic it looks? The styling is awesome. The iconic MV Agusta racing colours, red and silver. Giacomo Agostini on the MV. What could be more iconic in terms of a combination in motorcycle racing? Carl Fogarty and the Ducati, Kenny Roberts and the Yamaha, Barry Sheen and the Suzuki, Giacomo Agostini, the coolest, best looking motorcycle racer of all time. And I'm a heterosexual man and I fancy him. What a combination. What a bike. Yours for between £5,000 and £6,000. Look at it. It's gorgeous. Right. Let's move on to something that doesn't look as good and has a weird name. Now, we used to do in Street Fighters magazine a humorous column of spurious news about motorcycles. And we once said that a Japanese motorcycle manufacturer was doing a tie-in with the makers of the cartoon He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And we said that the bike would transform from being like Cringer, who was He-Man's big cat that he rode on, and Battle Cat, which is what Cringer turned into when he went into battle or whatever. And Cringer stopped being meek and mild, so the bike could be meek and mild in the week and you could commute and it had a screen, and then at the weekend it turned into Battle Cat, and we thought that was funny. Then Yamaha brought out a bike called the Thundercat. Yeah, they did. I had one. But mine was Man United colours, red, white and black, because I used to like Man United. But I've kind of gone off football now because I realised it's boring. Motorbikes aren't boring. This one isn't boring. It's a 1997 Thundercat. No reserve, our favourite word. 600cc's, of course. Original unmolested bike. That's what it says here. Paul Cowland claimed to be original unmolested, but I know better. Right, so even though he's not here, I'm doing Cowland material. I feel like a Chuckle brother. I'm a Barry without a Paul, and it's just not right. Right, but look at that. Let me just have a look at this, because I think that's the original exhaust, and it's like brand new. That's ridiculous. It is the original exhaust, and it's like brand new. I had one. It was a good, honest bike. It was a do-everything bike. I commuted on it. I went over the moorland roads for a laugh on it. And it's not massively fast, but it's quick. 13,000 RPM redline. No reserve. Why is it so good? It's just ridiculous. It's like a brand new bike. No reserve. The Ariel Square 4. My dad had one of these. It's in the lodge at my granddad's farm. I said that last time. It's still there. My father has said, why don't you go and get my bike out at lodge for one of your programmes? I said, when did it go in there, Dad? And we worked it out. It went in there in 1955. So, so if anybody wants to do a TV programme where I go and get my dad's Square 4 out of the lodge at Captain's Farm at Pillsworth, then I'd be more than happy to do it. I'm not going to guarantee that it'll ever run, or indeed that there's anything that resembles a motorcycle in any way there. But, you know, if you want to put the money up, I'd be happy to do it. Like I'm doing this for the money. Ariel Square 4, 1953. It says here, ideal British starter project. The reserve, the estimate rather, is £5,500 to £6,000. 1000cc. This one's an American import. Be the first to register it in the UK. It's not run for many years though, and will require a restoration, a full restoration. But solid bike. Solid bike. And 1000cc, Square 4, 4 cylinders, but not like the Honda in a more sort of, you know, 2 at the front, 2 at the back, rather than four in line. A very expensive bike when it was new. So Lord knows how my dad got his hands on ones. My granddad, farmer, he probably swapped it for like a tractor or a threshing machine or something like that. He was prone to doing that. Behind me, the Honda Dax. That's cute, isn't it? That is cute, you've got to admit. The Dax, one of the Honda mini bike family. Some people mistakenly think this is a monkey bike. No, it's not a monkey bike. Some people think it's a Cub. No, the Cub is what we call the C90. The C in 90 stands for Cub, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure that you will, because you love to correct me, don't you? Which is fair enough, because I'm like that. Now, I wondered why it was called a Dax, and Honda say it's because it resembles a dachshund dog. I reckon whoever had that job at Honda had been at the sake, one of those salary men's lunches that they have in Japan, where they all go off to the thing where they've got the geisha girls. This is all stereotypes, isn't it? It's probably not true at all, but how on earth would you think this looked like a Dachshund dog? Have you ever seen a Dachshund dog? It doesn't look like this. However, this is a cute little thing. It's the best, it's a restoration, believe it or not. This is a 1994 bike. It's 30 years old. The restoration on this cost £3,500. Someone thought that was a good idea. Somebody thought that they should spend £3,500 restoring a Honda Dax, and they've created the best Honda Dax in the world. Now they want to sell it, you can have it. And the estimate is £3,750 to £4,500, but the best one in the world. Perfection. If you like Honda Daxes. And I do, but I like everything. Anything with wheels and an engine, I like it. I love these, they're great. A Van. How fantastic is that? Suzuki RV125, 73. 73. So how old is it now? 51 years old. Wow. Look at the condition again. Seat's all good. Great seat, that. In my experience of riding vans, and I've ridden them quite a lot, the first thing that you think is that these wacky balloon tyres are going to be weird on the road. And they're not, they're fine, because it's only a little 125. And then you think it's going to be a bit rubbish off-road because it's not got much ground clearance. But it's really good on a trail or something like that. This was really built for Americans to put on the back of their, like, Winnebagos. You know, when you see, I was going to say, you know Macmillan and Wife? How old would you have to be? I'm going to ask the cameraman. Macmillan and Wife? No, he's shaking his head because he's a young person. When I say young, he's not that young. Macmillan and Wife was like 40 odd years ago. I saw it on the telly when I was little, but I'm 60. They had a big motorhome when they went round solving crimes. And probably on the back of that motorhome was one of these. That's kind of what it was built for. I've just thought what it is. This is the equivalent of a beach buggy, but it's a motorbike. Fantastic, superb, original condition, two-stroke, single cylinder, starts very easily. You just push that thing with your foot. And the estimate is £2,000 to £2,500. That bike's got a lot of character, and in my experience, you're not allowed to say anymore, when I rode vans, more ladies wanted to ride on the back of them than loads of like really big, powerful, expensive bikes, because it just looks friendly and it's got a big saddle. And they think it'll be like, there'll be like that sort of music playing in the background, la 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 la, and you'll be like riding along a beach and it'll be great and fun and you won't die, which is what they think most motorcycles involve. Right, I don't know which way I'm going next, so I need this, the Cowland device to tell me. It's this one, the Matchless. The best name in motorcycling, Matchless. Not the best bikes, but the best name. Not the best bikes, but very, very close to the top of being the best bikes. And this is a lovely, complete, running example of a Matchless G12 from 1959. It's got a 646cc, single-cylinder, four-stroke engine, and a four-speed, transmission. You don't need 4 strokes to change the gear, although, of course, you should remember that the gear changer is on the right side. It's modern motorbikes that have got the gear changer on the wrong side. God, the mither that I had when I started riding these old bikes, once I, got on the telly and that, oh, Steve, come and ride this old BSA. And then the gear changer's on the other side. I swear, everyone who's ever done that has been caught out. I defy anybody to say that when they switched from Japanese to British or from British to Japanese, they didn't stand on the brake thinking that they were changing gear. We've all done it, but I'm still here, sadly. G12, 1959. It's in lovely condition, big single, 62,000 miles, fully running and reliable. A good, honest motorcycle. I love it. I like bikes that are in this sort of condition better than the Absolute Minters. I love to look at the Absolute Minters. I think that's great, but I don't think I'd want to own them because I'm a user. I like to, by that I don't mean that I toy with people's emotions. What I mean is that rack looks useful as well, doesn't it? I'm riding a bike with no rack on it at the moment. I've got to wear a rucksack. I hate that. Wearing a rucksack on a motorbike pulls on your shoulders, doesn't it? Anyway, that rack would be handy. You could use this, you could ride this. You wouldn't need to worry about getting a little scratch on the tank or scuffing the pegs or something like that. Estimate, 3,800 to £4,500. 1959 Matchless G12, a very usable, handsome British motorcycle. Look at that, Matchless, Matchless, Matchless. They were proud of this bike, and rightly so. And you could be proud of it if you buy it in our sale for between 3,800 and £4,500. I think Cowland's OnlyFans account is messing with this, Is he on OnlyFans, Paul? Is he? He should be. I'd subscribe, if only for laughs, you know. I nearly said something else then that the young people say. I'm glad I didn't. I think this might be the oldest bike in our sale. Pre-war, and by war, I mean the Second World War. That's what they say about us, you know, the Germans. They say, when they say the war, they always mean the Second World War. Yeah, well, we won. So, you know, there you go. 1938, Francis Barnett Cruiser. Now, Francis Barnett, the old Fanny B, they were makers originally of enthusiast motorcycles, but they quickly shifted to making good, honest transport for the working men and women of Great Britain. And this exemplifies that. It is a 250cc single two-stroke, so it's no ball of fire, this thing, but there's quite a lot of innovation going on. Look at these heavily valanced mudguards and this enclosing bodywork over the engine, and these leg shields here, which are shields only to the weather. They're not, you know, designed to stop your legs from being horribly broken in any sort of incident with a Morris 8 or an Austin 7 or something like that. It's a very similar idea to the one that Honda would later develop on the Pan-European. You can ride this motorcycle, they were saying at the time in 1938, and wear a suit of clothes without worrying about ruining your worsteds or your best gabardine with the weather or the oil coming off this little two-stroke motor. A handsome, distinctive, affordably made pressed steel here, pressed steel all over the place where you might expect to find tubes, but a nice bit of chrome, bit of gold pinstriping, and an estimate on this one, £2,500 to £3,000 for a complete pre-war motorcycle. It starts and runs and it's MOT exempt, so there you go. Restored 10 years ago. I don't know if I want to sit up here, do you? Like the riders down there in Europe here. 250, two-stroke single. Francis Barnett. Behind me is a rather special motorcycle. This is a 1998 Honda NSR 500V, raced in MotoGP in 2000, and how many bikes can say this? How many bikes made this century can say this? Raced in MotoGP and at the TT. Now there is a rare combination. It's 500cc V-twin water-cooled engine, fully restored, never crashed, which is rare, isn't it, for a race bike? Beautiful paintwork. It's full Vimto livery. Look at this gorgeous purple paintwork here. Fully recommissioned, signed by the gentleman that raced it, McPint himself, Mr. John McGuinness, one of the greatest TT riders of all time, and a thoroughly nice man. He's from Morecambe, a Lancastrian man, so it's no surprise that he is not only talented, but a very nice gentleman. Raced at Donington MotoGP in 2000, at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. It's been 20 years with its current owner. It is in race spec, so you get extra pipes, extra wheels, extra tyres, tyre warmers, all that sort of stuff. The estimate, 90 to £110,000 for the 1998 MotoGP and TT Honda NSR 500V. Right. Oh, I like these. Right, here we go. Look at this. Lovely. An MV Agusta 125 TRL. A fantastic, well-documented example. 125cc, of course it's a single. It's a 4-speed. It starts and runs. It's MOT exempt, as I'm sure you're aware. We've got the documentation to prove its age. This is the sort of thing that you buy to compete in Moto Giro d'Italia, which of course is the two-wheeled version of the MKIIA. You go down to Italy, take this down with you in the van, and you ride it through some of the most beautiful scenery and architecture you would find anywhere on the planet. And that's why so many of these lovely original single-cylinder Italian sporting motorcycles, these little tiddlers, are getting restored to this standard because people want to go and ride Moto Giro d'Italia. I thought I was going this year. It didn't happen, but I will go. I will do Moto Giro d'Italia. Just look at it on YouTube. But if you don't know about it, put Moto Giro d'Italia into YouTube search and you will, in 20 minutes, you'll be seduced and you'll be coming to the Manor Park auction to buy one of these bikes that's eligible for that. It's not a race anymore. It's a rally. It's just an event, a beautiful event in a beautiful place on beautiful motorcycles, and they don't come much more beautiful than this one. This, of course, is, I'm going to say it, it's the Ducati. It's the TS175. It's absolutely bloody gorgeous. Like I say, 57. Matching numbers. It's just been serviced. A stunning, iconic Italian sports motorcycle. Look at it. Look at this combination of colours and the beautiful Ducati Meccanica Bologna badge there. Look at that. A pal of mine who works on bikes for a living all the time and then at the weekend restores their own motorcycle said, no other manufacturer puts the care into sort of the more mundane parts like Ducati used to do back in the day. Look at that there, Ducati made in Italy. And then the finish that they've put on there between the layers, it's just so beautifully done. There's no real reason to do that. It doesn't make it any faster or any better. It just makes it more beautiful. And they're proud of it. Ducati were proud of this motorcycle. If you made that, you'd be proud of it, wouldn't you? And you'd put your name all over it. I would. The estimate on this, I'm selling it to me. I want to buy it now. I can't buy any more bikes. I've literally not got any room. It's like Mahjong. Is it Mahjong? Jenga. It's like a Rubik's Cube, my garage. Everything has to be moved into the exact perfect right space or else there's no way that they're all going in. So there can't be any more bikes. It's one in, one out, and I don't want to sell any of them. The estimate on that one is £4,500 to £5,000. What a lovely thing. Right, let's come down here now. For something Italian, I was going to say, but something a bit unusual. But what I'm going to say instead is something bloody weird. It's an Aermacchi Zeffiro 150. Now, about 20 and a bit years ago, I went to Lisbon, Portugal, to the launch of what Aprilia said was a new concept in motorcycling, the Scarabeo. What they said it was a machine that combined the weather protection and the comfort and ease of use of a scooter with the better road holding and handling and stopping and going of a motorcycle. Little did I know at the time that they'd just copied it from Aermacchi, who did this in 1957. Look how it's made. Now, of course, Aermacchi were in the aircraft business, so there's lots of aluminium all over the place, lots of alloy, and that is all beautifully done. Look at this. Look how wacky and sort of Jetsons that is. Space age. It's the jet age, isn't it? This sort of stuff. This streamlining and all. I love it. But it's very reminiscent of a Lambretta. But unlike a Lambretta, it's got real wheels on it instead of those Didicasters that you have on a scooter. So it's much more like a motorcycle to ride. 150, two-stroke. It starts and runs. There are no clocks on it. It's MOT exempt, but it's not been registered yet. It's a funny-looking thing, isn't it? It's one of those things where you either look at it and think, yeah, I like that. I think this might get bought and put in a trendy bar in that London. Yeah, in Hoxton or perhaps Shoreditch. I've been there and they've had stuff like this in there just to look at because it's so wacky. £1,000 to £1,500. You'll never see another one. Never see another one for obvious reasons. But I love it. It's great. And you could own it for very little money. Here's an unusual machine, a Bridgestone. You're saying, don't they make tyres? Yes, they do make tyres, and they've made tyres for a long time. But for 20 years, they made motorbikes. When people tell the story of Bridgestone as a motorcycle manufacturer, they often say, oh yeah, Honda phoned them up, Mr. Honda phoned them up and said, I'm not going to do a racist Mr. Honda impression. Don't be making motorbikes or we'll come into the tyre business. Yeah, rubbish. Bridgestone made bikes for 20 years. This is a 1969 Bridgestone 175 DT, two-stroke. It's a twin. Look at that, it's a twin. Now, if you look at the engine, it's pretty damn unusual because what it is it's two 90s stuck together to make like a 180. And it made it pretty damn quick. I've got some, I was quite surprised when I checked earlier. I can't operate this machine. I don't know what Cowland's been doing. There's something on the screen. I'm not even going to go there. Right, Bridgestone motorcycles. Where's that speed? Right, okay. Yeah, this is why I was surprised earlier and why I've paused there while you entertained yourself by looking at it to tell you that with the two engines, the two 90cc engines kind of stuck together, this thing does 85 miles an hour. 85 miles an hour. Wow. 1969. A 175 that do 85 miles an hour. The Bridgestone, you'd be forever explaining to people, wouldn't you? You'd be going, you'd get a t-shirt with, yes, they made tyres. Yes, it's the tyre people, or something like that. Good tyres as well. Right, back to that direction. And I hope onto what I think is one of the best looking bikes here. Which is this one. Look at it. Isn't it gorgeous? It is, of course, a Ducati. It's a Monza 160 Stage 1 Café racer. And it's said, look at it. Right, I'll shut up for a second. Just look at it. Bellissimo. Isn't it? Built with love and no expense spared. It's a 156 single bevel drive. 280 miles since it was rebuilt. It starts, runs and rides. Very well documented. Tailor-made to its owner, who now wants to get rid of it. That's very sad. What a lovely thing. Oh, fabulous. Built with love and passion. No expense spared. Let me have a look here. Yeah. Receipts on the restoration or the build or whatever you want to call it, because it's more of a custom build than a restoration. Receipts for the thick end of 3.5K on this lovely little Ducati. But what's the estimate, you ask, for this 66 Monza 160 Stage 1? The estimate is £5,000 to £6,000. So he spent 3.5 on it, and they reckon the whole bike will go for between £5,000 and £6,000. Bargain. I like this. The NSU Superfox. Now, I know a Superfox when I see one, if you know what I'm saying. And this is it. 1956, 125cc. Look at these little boxes here. Aren't they cute? What would you put in there? You could put like a Paul Cowland sized pasty could go in there. That'd be like a little mid-morning snack for an unnecessarily huge bloke like him. And then maybe in the other side, I don't know, 20 Bensons and that'd be about it, wouldn't it? But they are cute. It's a lovely thing. It's got a rubber seat. I want to sit on the rubber seat. Tell you how great it is. NSU. They, of course, made that Wankel engine car, the R080, and they made the Prins, which the bloke who made... There was a motorbike that had that engine that was in the Prins, the 1200. They became Audi, sort of. The story of Audi is the most complicated and confusing in the world of motors. It involves Horex, Wanderer, Auto Union, NSU. It's dead complicated. We haven't got time for that story. But that's really what happened to NSU. Built down to a price at the time. You'll never see another one of these. Funky little thing, and it could be yours for £2,000 to £2,500. The NSU Superfox. I love that name. It's one of my favourites. Let's go in this direction because I want to talk Tritons. This one is or was rather, in Fitzpatrick's Bikers Cafe window for 20 years. And now it's out of that window and we want it to live again. This is a cafe racer built with the proper principles of a cafe racer because it's got a 660cc Triumph twin-cylinder motor. But the running gear is all, I would imagine, what was contemporary when it was built. So it's got, instead of wire wheels, it's got alloy wheels. Instead of drum brakes, it's got disc brakes. It's got 3 disc brakes. I don't think I've ever seen a Triton with 3 disc brakes on it. So it was obviously built rather than for just appearance. You'll see a lot of Tritons that are built for appearance. We'll see one in just a second. But this one was built to be ridden with all of this contemporary, I was going to say Japanese, but that looks like a it's a Brembo caliper. So yeah, so it's probably Ducati stuff or Moto Guzzi. Ducati more than likely. It was in the Bikers Cafe window for 20 years. It's out there now. I want to see it on the road. I want somebody to buy this and I want to see that being ridden down the road by somebody wearing like all black leathers with a white silk scarf trailing in the wind. So buy it. The estimate is £5,500 to £6,000. 1960. So it would just go off the edge of the frame, the Norton frame, not the engine. Norton frame, Triumph engine, Triton. Now, we talked about Tritons that are built for looks and Tritons that are built for performance. Here's a fantastic looking Triton. 1961, Triton 6T. There's no reserve on this this bike. 750cc, 4-stroke, twin-cylinder, 5-speed manual. So you got a 5-speed on this one rather than a 4-speed. I think this tank looks absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. I can't stop myself from caressing it. Look how shapely it is. Fantastic. It needs a full recommissioning. The engine has been bored out from 660 to 750cc. You've got the wire wheels. You've got the drum brakes. The right amount of wear on this seat. Don't touch that. Just clean it up. Do not restore this thing. Just clean it up. Oh, it's got some... When you look, it seems to... Cornies on the back as well. These look relatively new. The bloke who was building it has sadly passed. It's up to somebody else to finish it. That could be you. Come on, sort it out. There's not that much work here on this one. And you would be left with a beautiful, beautiful Triton. You could rock up at the Ace Cafe or the bike shed or anywhere else where the cool kids go. And this would get respect. Oh yeah, it would. There's not too much to do on it. The reserve is non-existent. It's no reserve on this one. 1961 is the number plate transferable. I'm looking to see because you might want to do that to pay for what the work you do on it. I'm not sure, so I don't know about that. But I do know, no reserve. It's here to sell. Suzuki GT500. No reserve again. Nice example. I think it might have come from the same collection, small collection as the Triton. The GT550, 5-speed gearbox. Of course, it's a 2-stroke air-cooled twin. The bike is complete, but does require restoration. Bits of it are obviously fantastic. Look at these downpipes here. They're great. The exhaust itself is okay, not as good. The paint looks fantastic. The seat cover surely is new. There's a lovely rack on the back. A very usable motorcycle. Again, no reserve. Here to sell. You don't see many of these. Good bike. Good bike. Classic look, sport wheels, but you've got a nice big decent disc brake on the front. I like to see a drum brake. I'm not one of those people who thinks that drum brakes don't work, but in modern motoring, you've just got to watch yourself with them. Whereas the reassurance of having that disc up front, but with these classic looks, might be the perfect combination for you in a usable road machine. No reserve on that one. Kawasaki Z1 900. No reserve again. Most importantly, perhaps here, if you're looking for one of these. And why wouldn't you be looking for one of these? It's one of the greatest motorcycles ever made. 1976 Z1 900. Honda had the CB750. Kawasaki built a better looking bike that was faster. They did. And it's this one. Fabulous. One of the best looking Japanese motorcycle, I think, ever made. Yeah. Not as pretty as a Ducati, not as handsome as Norton or a Vincent, but the best looking bike built in Japan. Good example, this one, 76, unfinished restoration, 5-speed, imported to the UK in 97. We're looking for side reflectors. Yep, it was originally sold in the United States of America. It was actually called the New York Steak, the New York Streak, the New York Steak. I'm trying to remember. I shouldn't have started on this. I should have looked it up. The New York Steak is what I'm going to say it was called. That was the project name for this motorcycle because they built it to sell to Americans. And they did sell this one to an American, but now it's here in Cheshire. And you could buy it, and there's no reserve. The 76 Kawasaki Z1 900. This one, again, no reserve. Quite a few of these bikes, no reserve. I think they're all from the same collection. A bloke who obviously loved bikes, and he probably built loads in his time because he'd done a lot of work on these machines, but he never got around to finishing these. So you could be the person who gets to do that after he did all the hard work. Thank you, sir. 1982 Suzuki GS650G, no reserve. 673cc inline 4-cylinder shaft drive. A cafe racer with shaft drive, Berry, you say? Yes, sir. A physically large motorcycle. If you've dreamed of owning a cafe racer, but you're a big lad, this could be the bike for you because it's a big machine. There's a lot of room between that handlebar and that handlebar. There's a lot of room between the top yokes there and your bum here. So if you felt a bit too cramped up, if you were looking at some of this sort of smaller Japanese stuff earlier, thinking, I'd love one of them, but there's absolutely no way that I would fit on one of those bikes. You'd fit on this. So he's taken off all this stuff that's here, and he's put the Cafe Racer tank, the Cafe Racer seat unit, the Cafe Racer fairing, the Cafe Racer bars. Like I say, most of the hard work done. A shaft drive Cafe Racer, that's a contradiction in terms, you're saying. I say no, there are no rules. You make your own rules. Yours for no reserve. There is no reserve on that machine, the 1982 Suzuki GS650G. Suzuki T500. So again, this is the twin-cylinder, air-cooled, two-stroke Suzuki motor down there underneath. That a fiberglass tank, don't be silly. Of course it's not fiberglass, it's metal. It looks like metal. Why did I even say that? Very nice. Lovely tank, that. Nice fairing on here. Again, a Cafe Racer project that had been begun but not finished. So it's registered 1974. The V5 is present. The work's half done. There's loads of parts here. The original tank, the original side panels, all that sort of stuff, plus some replacement stuff down here. Yours to finish, no reserve on that bike, the 1974 Suzuki T500 Cafe Racer. Another project here is this one. It's the Honda. Is this Super Dream? Is that Super Dream? Hold on. Yes, sir. Honda 250N Super Dream. Not just a dream, a Super Dream. Because Mr. Honda had a dream and he called his bike the Dream. But then when they made one that was more super, they called it the Super Dream. And this is it. 249cc's, 4-stroke, twin-cylinder, a box of parts goes with the bike. There's more than a box. There's like 3 boxes of parts come with this bike. And there's no reserve. 1981 Honda Super Dream. Build what you like. You never need to worry about an MOT. Not that you should, because it's a motorbike. You've got to be careful, haven't you? That's the thing, innit? You wouldn't build a motorbike that was dangerous because you're going to be riding it. You're going to be riding it. Mind you, having said that. Look at this. What have we got here? A Honda 404. The first big bike I ever rode. Wow. I only found out recently they only made the 404 for 2 years. It was the first motorcycle with more than one cylinder that I rode. And of course, it's got 4 cylinders. I remembered not a fast bike, but such a great handling and well put together machine it was. This one is uncompleted, the restoration. There's a large number of parts, the second set of wheels. There's tons of parts with this one. No reserve, 1977. Honda CB404, or as we bettered, yeah, the 404, the first big bike I ever rode. That's where it all started. Just think how different it could have been. Love it. This is interesting, I think. Oh, there it is. There's a different picture of it here than what it looks here. It's that tank in the picture, but that tank, as you can see, is on there. Yeah, it's just been placed on there because the red tank is the tank that's on it in the photo. And you know what this is? It is a Harley Davidson. I think that's why they put the other one on, this one on, rather than the other tank, because it's a Harley Davidson SS350 Sprint. But what the fellow was trying to do was make a replica of an Aermacchi race bike. Now, of course, Harley Davidson, AMF Harley Davidson, when it was American Machine and Foundry, the people who made bowling alleys and all sorts of stuff, they made bowling alleys, all the gear for AMF. Anyway, they made Harleys back then, and they wanted to sell, when I say build, they wanted to sell smaller capacity machines to compete with the Japanese stuff that was flooding into America at the time, and the British stuff. So they bought Aermacchi, and they got lower capacity, single cylinder bikes, like this one. But the geezer wanted to make a replica of the Aermacchi race bike, and so he bought all of the bits that he could do that. So you get this bike, which is the Harley, but you get the Aermacchi bits as well if you wanted to turn it into a racer. Now, because Paul's not here, we can't do any like fun banter of a George and Mildred or Wallace and Gromit type nature with this sidecar outfit, which makes me sad in a way. Paul, I miss you. Come back. Was it something I said or was it something I did? Anyway, it's a sidecar outfit. I thought it was an FJ1100, which is the previous incarnation of this bike, but it's not. It's the 1200 with ABS, which is much better if you've got a third wheel here. A sidecar combination like this, not very popular these days, but if you were looking for one, you're talking about big money. I'm always surprised when I find out how much sidecar combinations cost. But not this one, because this one, which is 1200cc, 4-stroke, 4-cylinder Yamaha with a 5-speed manual box. It's pretty high miles, this one, I think. It requires an MOT and light recommissioning. The dude's been all over the place on it. Yeah, it's got 60,000 on it. Because he went touring. This is a touring combination. That is thick fiberglass. That's the sound of thick fiberglass right there. It's a quality sidecar. It probably won't become detached from the motorcycle in a comedy fashion like it always did if one of these appeared on the telly. Almost definitely that won't happen, I can say. No reserve on that one. The 1991 Yamaha FJ1200 ABS combination. Have a look and see how much sidecar combinations cost new. They're absolute fortunes. Not that one. Can be yours, no reserve. Now, this one is a bit like the Harley-Davidson / Aermacchi over in the corner. It's a 1977 Honda CB550, the bike that kind of superseded the 404. 4-cylinder, inline, air-cooled. The bloke was halfway through turning it into a replica of the RC181, so the bike that Jim Redmond, Mike Halewood rode. So he's got the tank, he got the seat unit, he got these pipes here. He got a lot of stuff to turn it into that replica or copy. He brought it together, but he can't take the project any further. You could be the person to do that. There is no reserve on this 1977 Honda CB550, which comes with the fairing, the side panels, the end pipes, the tank, the race tank, the seat, everything. RC181 rep. You could pretend to be Mike Halewood because he was the greatest motorcycle racer that's ever lived. Don't argue. It's just a fact. Look at this. I love it. 1984 Honda CG125E. Loads of my mates learnt to ride on these. The Honda CG. Look how diddy it is. I'm going to get on it. Right. Look at that. Speedo's massive. Because suppose it was just a standard Honda Speedo and they put it on everything. But when it's on this, mind you, it's a bit custom, isn't it? It's a bit the Fonz, this 1984. Did I say 1981? 1984, I can't read Colin's writing. CG125E. Project bike, original bike. They've got the V5, 2 keys. You get Haynes manual and the chain and lock with it, and there is no reserve on it. And it's a proper little cutie, is that. That could start you off on your classic motorcycling career, could that? Right, let's go over here to this Ducati. This bike, the 1981 Ducati 600 SL Panther, not those late night phone calls that you might get from Port Cowland with the heavy breathing. No, I know it's you. I know it's you, mate. Or is it? No. Let's not bring Mike Brewer into this. It's a bike that showed the way forward for Ducati. It's a departure from what they did before, and it was the future of Ducati because instead of bevel drive, we've got rubber driven cams, and we've got a trellis frame. I knew there was something. I knew there were two things. I knew they'd gone from bevel drive to rubber belt drive, and a trellis frame on the same bike. Original and restored this bike. You can tell that, can't you? Nobody's messed with this. Look at that. The seat, red seats. Who doesn't love a red seat? And then, of course, the red, the white, and the green. Look at these composite wheels here. I would imagine, and this is just me talking, so it's probably wrong. Don't quote me on this. That would be an alloy spoke bolted to a steel rim. Composite wheels. Discs on the back, discs on the front. A proper gentleman's sporting machine, which at the time would have been ridiculously expensive and so would have sold in very few numbers. But now, being, as I say, a very important bike in the development of Ducati. Look where Ducati are now. And this is modern Ducati. This is where modern Ducati start. Trellis frame, belt-driven, what's the face, instead of bevel drive. 5.5. Oh, hold on, not 5.5, 3.5. 3.5. There's me, 5.5. We've already knocked £2,000 off the price, off the estimate, not the price. The estimate is £3,500 to £4,000. An important motorcycle shouldn't be that cheap, but for some reason, that one is. Now, talking of important motorcycles, let's move over here. But we're not going to talk about the BMW R90S just yet because I need to tell you about this Moto Guzzi. Moto Guzzi, California. I met Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes. No, not Sir Alec. He's passed on. Oh, did you not know? It's Ewan McGregor now. I met Ewan and he was riding one of these. He wasn't riding that BMW GS. He was riding one of these. A Moto Guzzi, California 1100 EV. Full running bike. 5-speed gearbox. Panniers. It's got them. Backrest. It has that as well. Footboards like a Harley. So when they called it the California, they were basically saying, hey, Americans, you know, like you like Harley Davidsons, yeah? Right, well, what if you could buy a bike that was like that, so it was comfortable, it had a big mad seat, a lovely comfortable seat on the back for the missus, some panniers on the side that are detachable, and these comfortable bars and a screen and lots of chrome. What if you could have one of those that actually handled and stopped and went pretty well? Well, here it is. And we'll call it the California, just so that you miss the point that we're trying to make. This one's from 97. It's, oh God, I thought I was misreading that. Between 1,800 and 2,500 is the estimate for this bike. Is it like massive miles or something? 45,000, no, it's nothing. It's been around for 27 years, so it's done 2,000 a year, basically. Well, not much more than that. 1,800 to 2,500 is the estimate on this one. The 1997 Moto Guzzi, California. I'm doing the comedy voices. Got to stop doing that. Get me in trouble. Right, important motorcycle. This one. Come on. The BMW R90S. What a bike. This changed the public perception of BMW. Back in the day, BMW had been around since what? Just after the war, the Great War. There they'd originally built sporting machinery, but as the decades passed by and after the Second World War, they got a right reputation for building dependable, boring touring bikes and bikes that were popular with the cops. Not exactly the sort of sporting tackle that would get the blood coursing through the veins of any red-blooded lad who loved bikes. This motorcycle, the R90S, changed that. Look at the paint job. This was standard. This was the standard paint job. It looks like a custom paint job. Deliberately, BMW were trying to change their image. They wanted to compete with the Japanese, with the likes of Ducati and Moto Guzzi. We were kind of, what's this, 77? Nah, Britain, the British motorcycle industry was about as low as it would ever get. Thankfully, we're on the way up very much so with Triumph and Norton and BSA and Royal Enfield. But this was made by BMW to take on Honda, really. And what a great bike it was. The first one of these in the UK was owned by Lord Lichfield, the Queen's cousin. I know, because I went down and rode it. I went down to his house, Shrewsbury Castle. When I say house, went down to his castle, Shrewsbury Castle, and had a ride of it. And he told me some right stories. He said BMW gave him this bike in exchange for him doing the press photographs. And he said, well, he did a posh accent. I won't do the posh accent. I can't do the posh accent. I'm from Bury. He said he came out of the Hilton on Park Lane and he had his butler on the back. And a young scruff pulled up next to him on Old Triumph and said, "Here, are you that Lord Lichfield?" Because it had been in Motorcycle News saying he was getting the first one of these. And he said, "No, I'm his butler. That's his nibs on the back." And the next week there was a letter in Motorcycle News saying, "That Lord Lichfield's not a real biker. He gets his butler to ride it and he sits on the back." The R90S, what a bike. I love these panniers. Fantastic. Look at all these stickers where it's been the North Cape, the Alps, the Pyrenees. It's been all over this bike, although I think these stickers might be a bit like, you know, stolen valor. Are you aware of that? When these fellas go to military things with loads of medals. Because if you've not been to these places, you're not allowed to ride around on these bikes with them stickers. Them's the rules. What you've got to do, if you buy it, you've got to have a project where you go to all of these places that this lad that had it before had these stickers on. This is one of the 20 most important bikes in motorcycling. I'm telling you, it changed BMW. Look where BMW are today. They used to make boring bikes, not after this. The R90S. Love it. Estimate, £5,500, £6,500. Bargain. Right, let's move on to the dirt bikes. Let's get dirty. As Cowland would say that if he was here. That's what he'd say. He's predictable. TS125 ERZ, 1982. Only 6 registered in the UK. Look at it. It's lovely. Look at the condition it's in. Look at the engine. Look at all that. And who doesn't love, again, it's a shame he's not here, Paul, because he'd say, who doesn't love a full floater? Because that's what it is. We're talking about the rear suspension, of course. The estimate is £3,750 to £4,500. Runs and rides great. They've got the V5, 2 keys. It sounds great. Starts first time. Very rare. Very rare. 6 in the UK registered. This one restored to a very high standard. And the estimate is £2,500 to £4,500. Suzuki. Let's go back a couple of decades. 1974, Suzuki TC185. The Ranger. The Suzuki Ranger with that high-level exhaust. Look how saucy that looks. Pretty much a road bike with sort of trail aspirations. It's not a motocrosser. You could ride it down a trail. The Ranger, you know, like a forest trail or something like that. 185cc, 2-stroke, single cylinder, of course. V5 is present. This is an import, so we've got all the paperwork. Yeah. Side markers again, US import. The Americans love bikes like this. And the Japanese fully catered for that requirement, for something that's a bit like a Subaru, where a Forester, do you know what I mean? Where it's not a full-on SUV or a 4x4, but it's got 4x4, bit of ground clearance, but it's nice to ride on the road. And that's what this is. You could ride it on a trail, but it's also nice to ride on the road. The Ranger, 1974 from Suzuki. The Honda XR250RE. Cool, they don't have like putting a lot of numbers and letters together, the Japanese, don't they? Anyway, it's a 250, UK bike, original bike here in the UK. Great tyres, rides great. Twin carb model. Twin carb model? Yeah, it is. Right, okay. So hold on. Is it a twin? Or is it a single with 2 carburetors? It should tell me here. It doesn't. I'm going to have to guess. They might have just put 2 carbs on just to kind of say, oh, you know, you get quicker response, throttle response. See, I'm showing a little bit of knowledge here, which is always a dangerous thing. Better response from 2 small carburetors than you get from 1 big one, which is true. But they might have been just trying to sell it. REVC motor, again from Honda. And you can't beat Honda engineering. Quite a lot of wear on this one. It's a good, honest motorcycle. The estimate is £1,000 to £2,000 on the 1984 Honda XR250RE. 76 Suzuki TS250M. Very similar to the Ranger that we've just seen there. 250cc, 2-stroke. It's only done, it's only done from new, 4,500 miles. MOT exempt, original owner's manual is available, and we've got a V5 with it, although it's obviously American import. It's had a heck of a restoration on it. How much is it? The estimate is £3,000 to £3,500. What a lovely thing, isn't it? Look at that, like a new bike. Look at the seat and the tank and the paintwork and everything. Like a new bike, yours for £3,000 to £3,500. The 76 Suzuki TS250M. Now, here we are. I was getting ahead of myself then. But let's not miss this one out, because it's a corker. 1977 Yamaha TT500, an original matching numbers machine, a UK bike. Yeah, UK bike. £2,000 electric starter fitted. An electric starter fitted because this, look at that, it's got the kicker there, but it's a proper ankle breaker, this one, the TT500. So somebody went to the expense, the considerable expense, £2,000 worth of expense of fitting an electric starter. Full restoration, rides perfectly, 2 former keepers here in the UK, and the estimate on this lovely, lovely thing, which you don't worry about having the humiliation of ending up waiting for the ambulance because you've got that a bit wrong and this bugger's broken your ankle because it's got an electric start on it. Yours, £4,500 to £5,000. Now, I like this. I like this 1989 Honda NX650 Dominator, probably because I fancied one at the time. Fantastic custom bike. It's got a 650cc 4-stroke single, Paris-Dakar Sand Raiders, it says here. Now, you probably know what Paris-Dakar is, but Sand Raiders, you might not be familiar with it. Although if you like bikes, you probably are. Sand Raiders is like Moto Giro that I was talking about earlier with the little Italian bikes. Sand Raiders is an event held every year on part of the Paris-Dakar course. They tend to mainly stick to Morocco because places like Mauritania can be a bit tricky. Sand Raiders is for old dirt bikes, old bikes that would have competed in Paris-Dakar back in the day, like this Honda Dominator, and it's customized in that style. It's been restored, it's been customized, it's a retro, custom, retro modded Honda Dominator. These things are super popular in the custom crowd now, and they get done Brat style, they get done street tracker style. This one is full-on desert raid style. It would have cost a ton of money to get it into this condition. I had a proper look at this earlier, and the standard of restoration and work that's been done on it is awesome. And it made me think, why has somebody spent all this money and then they want to sell it? Well, we'll never know, but they do. And that could be to your enormous monetary advantage, because the estimate on this one is considerably less than what's been spent on it. The whole bike could be yours for between £4,500 and £5,000. Right, now, if you ever let car people near a motorbike, it never ends well. Ducati did it, that wasn't good. Who else did it? Oh, Norton. Norton Triumph NVT, the Triumph of British bike companies. They went to Ogle, who were best known for things like the Ogle Mini and the Bond Bug. I think they did as well. Their bikes weren't great. But this one had the hand of the maestro, as I called him when I met him at the Pebble Beach Concours in that California. Giorgetto Giugiaro. MV got him in to do this one. What a lovely bike this is. This is one of the most Italian bikes I've ever seen. It's only got 35 brake horsepower from that motor, but it's triple discs. And look at these beautiful lattice alloy wheels. It's a nimble, lightweight motorcycle with great brakes, fantastic handling to make the most of its modest power output. Only produced for 2 years between 1975 and 1977. It might need some recommissioning, although it has been previously restored, and it's complete. We've got, what have we got with it? Yeah, we don't think it's registered in the UK. It's got kilometre clocks on it, so it is an import, and the estimate on this one is, I can't believe how cheap this is. Such a rare bike. £3,500 to £4,000 as it is. Wow. Do you know what? I often say this, but if you went out on this, if you got this sorted, did a bit of work in it and went out of it and you took it somewhere, it'd generate a lot of interest. And do you know what? You definitely, absolutely, positively would not see another one. You wouldn't see another one. Absolutely not. The 1977 MV Agusta 350. It says cool and rare, like me. Oh yeah. Now they talk about a race replica for the road, but they don't mean it, because actual race bikes, pretty horrible to ride. I've had a couple of race bikes that were road legal, and I did have one that I tried to use as a daily. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea. They're really uncomfortable. They're really difficult to ride, especially when I got pulled over by a policeman on my race replica, and he came over and looked at it and said, right, go on then, fire it up. And I said, it's push start only. He let me off. I think he just realised that it would have been an enormous amount of paperwork if he started going all the way through the bike. This is truly a road-going race replica. The 1989 Suzuki RG500, the Gamma. This is an unmolested UK bike. Wow, let me say that again. A 1989 Suzuki RG500 Gamma, an unmolested UK bike. Find another one. Find another one that can say that. 500cc square 4 two-stroke. First registered 1988. It's got an MOT. It's got 2 keys. It's got 17,000 miles on the clock, and I think it's going to be big money, because this is kind of the Sierra Cosworth of bikes. Yeah, I do that, don't I? I compare them to cars, but I think this is very much that. It is a working class icon, like the Sierra Cosworth. This was a bike for the lads. Estimate is 19 to 21,000 pounds. It's in the best colour combination, red, white and black with the red seat. It's got the pillion cover there. Look at it. As we say, unmolested. UK bike. 17,000 miles, 19 to 21,000 pounds. I will stand back so you can gaze upon its loveliness. What a machine this was. The Sierra Cosworth of motorcycles, says Steve Berry. You can use that quote.